Hello everyone, welcome to our channel. Today we will be starting our new series on top 20 Viva questions which are frequently asked in the environmental engineering laboratories on various experiments. Our first in this series is the wastewater characterization, where we will be discussing about physical, chemical and biological characterization of water. One of the first question which is asked in the water and wastewater characterization is, what does turbidity indicate in the wastewater? As you can see in this adjoining image, turbidity is nothing but the measure of the cloudiness or haziness which is caused by the suspended solids in the wastewater. Higher the turbidity level basically indicates higher the concentration of solid particles. Second question is, what is the significance of pH in the wastewater characterization? Again, this is very commonly asked and where students fail to answer this question. pH basically determines whether the wastewater is acidic or alkaline in nature because the acidity or the alkalinity of wastewater determines the pH. It affects the solubility of various substances which we will be discussing in subsequent videos, and it also influences the biological process in the treatment system. Again, pH has a significant role to play in the biological treatment system, which we will be discussing in detail in the biological treatment system. Third question, and very important question, is what is the difference between BOD and COD? Remember, first thing is BOD stands for biochemical oxygen demand. Many students say the BOD as biological oxygen demand. No, it is biochemical oxygen demand. Okay, so BOD basically is nothing but the measure of the oxygen required by the microorganisms. So when they say biochemical, you should remember it is related to the microorganisms. Okay, so these microorganisms need oxygen to decompose the organic matter. So BOD gives us this quantity of oxygen that is required by microorganisms for biologically decomposing organic matter. Now, how does it differ from COD? Well, COD gives us the measure of oxygen required for both biodegradable as well as non-biodegradable organic matter through the process of chemical oxidation. What do we do? In the process of COD, we use a strong oxidizing agent. In most of the cases, it is K2Cr2O7, that is potassium dichromate, is used as a strong oxidizing agent which oxidizes both biodegradable as well as non-biodegradable organic matter present in the sample of wastewater or water, right? So thereby we measure the oxygen required. So this is the first difference between BOD and COD. The second and most important difference is the BOD takes about 5 days to complete, right? And COD experiment can be completed within 2 to 3 hours. 2 hours of digestion, and if you take about half an hour to 1 hour for analysis, so maximum it takes about 3 hours to complete. Fourth question is, why is the characterization of inorganic ions important in wastewater analysis? Again, very important question. Well, inorganic ions such as it could be chloride, sulfate, nitrate, these ions impact water quality. They also impact the corrosion potential and the subsequent treatment processes as well. Some of these ions are regulated by the regulatory authorities like Pollution Control Board, etc., due to their potential environmental or health impacts. Therefore, their characterization is very important. Fifth question, how do nitrogen and phosphorus contribute to water pollution in wastewater? As you may be knowing, Nitrogen and phosphorus compounds primarily originate from human waste, or it could be from agricultural runoff, and the industrial processes also contribute to the nitrogen and phosphorus. These, when disposed of into the water bodies, can result in the eutrophication. Now, what is eutrophication? Well, eutrophication is nothing but the excessive growth of algae and other aquatic plants which disrupt the ecosystem. Existing ecosystem totally gets disrupted by the process of eutrophication. As you can see in this image is two images. What does wastewater, or what role does wastewater characterization play in designing effective treatment processes? We all know that the characterization is a primary thing which is required prior to designing any treatment chain or treatment processes, right? So the wastewater characterization helps us to determine what is the appropriate, what is appropriate, what is appropriate treatment method, and what are the technologies which are required for removing any specific contaminant or pollutant that is present. It also ensures the treatment system is designed to meet the regulatory standards. This is very important. So therefore, the characterization plays a very important role in the designing of treatment process, or rather effective treatment processes. Next question is, what is the relationship between biochemical oxygen demand BOD and oxygen levels in the wastewater? Oxygen levels, by oxygen levels I mean dissolved oxygen. Well, as I explained earlier, BOD represents the amount of oxygen required for microorganisms to decompose the organic matter completely, right? As the BOD increases, as the BOD increases, the oxygen level in the oxygen level in the water bodies decrease, because the microbes which are present in the system, they use oxygen for their respiration. So because of which, as the BOD increases, the DO level goes on decreasing. Generally, if you ask me if there is one test which can be used for determining the water quality of any water body, then you should go for the DO test, that is dissolved oxygen test. So the DO level of water body is primary indicator of pollution level. It indicates the pollution level. Lower the DO values, suppose the lower the DO values indicate the water body is already polluted. If any water body, when you check for its DO level, if it has lower DO values, usually it indicates that water body is already polluted. Next question is, how can turbidity be measured in the wastewater well? Turbidity, as you might have done in your laboratories, turbidity can be measured using the equipment called turbidity meter or nephalometer, which measures the scattering of light by suspended particles in the water. That's how the principle of the measurement of turbidity meter or nephalometer works. 10th question. How can inorganic ions in wastewater impact the environment? Wow. So inorganic ions such as heavy metals, these can prove to be toxic to the aquatic life. So many of these are toxic to the aquatic life. So, and they also have this quality of remaining in the environment for longer time. So they persist in the environment, and their accumulation in the organisms cause long-term ecological effects. Then What techniques are used for analyzing the concentration of inorganics in wastewater? Well, there are various analytical techniques which are used for measuring the concentration of inorganic ions, such as ion chromatography, or AAS, which is atomic absorption spectroscopy, and ICP, which is nothing but inductively coupled plasma spectroscopy, are used for measuring the concentration of inorganic ions in the water and wastewater samples. Next is, how do microorganisms contribute to the treatment of wastewater? Well, microorganisms play a very important or vital role in the wastewater treatment. We will be discussing about the role of microorganisms in the next video which we will be making. But for time being, you remember that microorganisms play a very vital role in the treatment of wastewater, because they help us in breaking down the organic matter, and they also convert the nutrients and remove harmful pathogens through the process called biological oxidation. This is known as biological oxidation. Biological oxidation and nitrification and denitrification. Why do we measure the concentration of dissolved solids in the wastewater? Again, there are various solids, as you may be knowing. I'll be discussing about these in the next video. But why do we measure the dissolved solids in the wastewater? Well, the dissolved solids, such as salts, nutrients, metals, these affect the water's quality, and they also impact on treatment requirement. So monitoring their concentration helps us in assessing the water suitability for various purposes, right? What are some of the sources of nitrogen in wastewater? In the earlier slide, we discussed about what are the contribution of nitrogen and phosphorus to the environment, and now we are asking what are the sources of nitrogen in wastewater. Well, nitrogen in wastewater can originate from human waste, food residues, agricultural runoff, or it could be from industrial discharges which contain nitrogen-based compounds. So these are few sources of nitrogen in the wastewater. How can we remove phosphorus from the wastewater? Well, phosphorus can be removed from the wastewater through chemical precipitation, or through biological phosphorus removal, or through adsorption onto media like activated alumina, etc. These are the ways in which the phosphorus can be removed from the wastewater. What is the significance of the carbon to nitrogen or C/N ratio in the wastewater treatment? Carbon to nitrogen ratio is an important biological treatment process. It is very important in biological treatment process, as it influences the growth of microorganisms and the efficiency of nutrient removal. Proper balancing of the carbon to nitrogen ratio is necessary for optimal treatment processes. This you remember. We will be discussing about this again in the subsequent videos. 17th question. What are the potential health risks associated with untreated or poorly treated wastewater? Well, as you may be knowing, poorly treated wastewater contains pathogens, it contains harmful chemicals, it also may contain toxic substances that could pose risks to human health. These have the potential to cause waterborne diseases, infections, or long-term health effects when they are exposed to the when we are exposed to the contaminated water. 18th question. How can the process of aeration influence the wastewater treatment? Well, aeration introduces oxygen into wastewater. That is, it introduces oxygen into the wastewater system, treatment system. So this oxygen basically promotes the growth of aerobic microorganisms, and it also involved in breaking down of organic compounds, that is decomposition of organic matter. And apart from that, it also plays a role in nitrification and denitrification process. So this is how the aeration basically influences the wastewater treatment. How are heavy metals characterized in the wastewater? Well, heavy metals are found in the wastewater. In some of the wastewater it is found. These are characterized based on the concentration of their toxicity and the potential environmental risk or health risk associated with it. Analysis of these heavy metals is basically conducted by the use of specialized equipment such as AAS or ICP. Our final question in this video is, why is it important to conduct regular monitoring and characterization of wastewater? Well, regular monitoring and characterization of wastewater helps us in assessing the effectiveness of treatment processes, and it also ensures that we are compliant with whatever regulatory standards are there, and it also helps us in identifying the potential environmental impacts, and in a way it guides us towards improvements in the wastewater management. So this is why it is very important to regularly monitor and characterize the wastewater. Thanks for watching this video. If you like this video, please give us a thumbs up and share with your friends. Subscribe to our channel, and if you have any questions, please do let us know in the comment box. Thank you.